and PPL.
The committee members, mind taking your seat? We'll get started here in just a moment. Everybody mind taking your seat, please? Chase them down. Good morning. Welcome to the Metro Plan Orlando TAC meeting for April 28th, 2023. We'll call this meeting to order. Just a reminder again that all TAC members are now in person. All TAC meetings are now in person, and it's important for all TAC members to attend our meetings in order for us to have a quorum to conduct business. Members of the public will still be able to participate virtually, and we encourage them to do so. There are two public comment opportunities in today's meeting, one before the action items and a second at the end of the meeting. Members of the public attending in person who want to speak should fill out a comment card and give it to Lisa, who is sitting in front of the monitors to my left. Those attending virtually who want to speak will use the raise hand feature in the Zoom screen. If attending by phone, you can hit 9* to raise your hand and request to be recognized. We also accepted comments by mail before the meeting. I have a bittersweet announcement to make about one of the members of the Metro Plan staff, whom many of us have had the opportunity to get to know over the past years. Since our last meeting, Miss Kathy Goldfarb has retired. Lucky her. And we wish her all the best. Kathy, of course, is a lady we heard from before every meeting. She pulled together our agendas and meeting package. She patiently reminded all of us to RSVP for our meetings so we can again have a quorum. She answered our phone calls and emails. She greeted us when we arrived here at the office and validated our parking passes. We know how important that is. For more than 13 years at Metro Plan Orlando, Kathy has provided an untold amount of support for our board members and committee members, much of it behind the scenes, especially during the pandemic when we were meeting virtually. We wish Kathy were here today so we could thank her in person for all she has done for this organization. But I believe I can speak for all the members of the TAC, but we do wish her as well as she moves into the next chapter of her life and begin able to take a little time easier and enjoy time with her family. She has certainly earned it. There is a card for Kathy, and I hope everyone will take a moment to write her a short note at the end of the meeting, and we'll give the card to Kathy. So Kathy, if you're listening in virtually, please know how much we appreciate everything you've done. And please join me in a big round of applause and hope she hears us somehow. Thank you for that. We have another Metro Plan Orlando staff update. We would like to congratulate Jason Santorio and his wife, Hannah, as they welcome their first child, Henry, born last week, and is reported both baby and family are doing well. And from that, I'll turn it over to Slade. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, and welcome again, everyone, to the meeting. There are two quick changes to our agenda today. The Safe Streets and Roads for All update will be given by Ms. Taylor LeBrent. And the Sunshine Corridor update will be postponed until our next meeting. Our presenter was under the weather, so be back hopefully next meeting feeling better. Also, a couple of announcements. We have two new TAC members, Paul Yergain from City of Oviedo, as well as Dana Chester from CFX. So welcome. Thank you. And with that, we are actually starting a new segment at the beginning of all of our meetings. Mike Wilson is going to present a safety moment. So we'll go ahead and turn it over to Mike.
Thank you. Good morning, all. What we have in mind for these safety moments is something that we can share, with our committee members as well as with the general public on what can we all do to improve traffic safety in our area. And while some of these moments may look a little different from perhaps what we present here to what eventually gets presented out into the general public, the concepts will be the same. As a starting point, started with the safe system approach, which is the core principles of our Vision Zero approach, which looks at safer people, safer vehicles, safer speeds, safer roads, and improved post-crash care. But I wanted to kind of narrow it down for our safety moments to things that, again, the things that can be actionable, particularly by individuals, but also by us as planners to some extent as well. And for that, I looked at the safety success factors that we used in our ped and bike safety action plans, which were the top four there of predictability, visibility, conflicts, and speed, that if we improve these factors, we are going to inherently start improving safety. But then because this is a multimodal approach, it includes motor vehicles, vehicle control is another factor. So I've got another 5 slice pie here to echo the safe systems approach. So I'll be pulling from each of these slices month by month, and I certainly welcome any of you, if you have ideas that fit into any of these, please send them my way, and welcome any input on that. So that's kind of the overall picture of what we're going to be working with here in our safety moments. And now here's our first one. So I'll introduce this is a video PSA from Victoria, Australia. A very successful campaign that they had there called Wipe Off 5. It was about 10 years ago. And as some of you may know, when you go to places like Australia or in Europe, they tend to be a bit more aggressive with their messaging when it comes to PSAs. So there's some fairly, graphic imagery in this one. And also because it's Australian, it's in metric. So I put a little handy metric conversion chart there on the side for you. Although this crowd should be able to make those kind of calculations in your head, right? All right, Lisa, if you would go ahead.
Our job is to reconstruct serious crashes and get evidence that may be used in court. Now, this young woman landed here with serious head injuries. Following the huge force that threw her over 6 metres on the impact here, we can work out she was hit at 32 kilometres per hour by analysing the car and these tyre marks. So we started braking here and first saw her when he was travelling at 65. But let's change one small thing. Now he's doing 60 when he sees her. And this time he hits her at only 5 kilometres per hour. She'd just have a bruised leg. And we'd never have been called to this incident.
There's a similar video that they did where that gets more into the explanation of why there's such a big disparity in impact speed. But anyway, so that's the type of messaging that we'd like to get out to people so that they understand why these small differences in speed can have such a profound literal impact. And so that's it for this month, and we'll see you next time.
All right, thank you, Mike. One announcement I forgot to include earlier was, I think we had a slide for it, but we, the MetroPlan Orlando communications team recently won a image award at the Florida Public Relations Association for the 2023 Notes on the Future annual report. So you guys may remember we had our little social media sharing competition. So they wanted to give a shout out to them for all their hard work. So with that, go ahead and turn it over to Lisa to do roll call.
And just a FYI, Mr. Chair, we are having a little bit of an issue with the Zoom on the virtual side. It's not allowing the attendees to come in. So I just wanted to give you a heads up, but everything else is working like it's supposed to. So everything in the boardroom is working as it should. Abbott Dontuano,
Present.
Bates,
Present.
Brock.
Here.
Carson. Cash. Castelletto,
Present.
Castro,
Here.
Chester,
Here.
Cornelison,
Here.
Cologne,
Present.
DeVries,
Present.
Doig,
Good morning. Here.
Edie, Elliott Moore, Gold,
Here.
Hardwick,
Here.
Dredge,
Here.
Kane, Kamal, Krug,
Here.
Lim,
Here.
Moskowitz,
Here.
O'Keefe, Allure, represented by Giovinazzo,
Giovinazzo here.
Pulliam,
Here.
Richmond, Sanders,
Here.
Sonorens,
Here.
Smith,
Present.
Stirk,
Here.
Sudemeyer,
Here.
Wharton,
Here.
Yearging.
Here.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the roll call and we do have a quorum.
We'll move into our common presentations. The first is the update on the Safe Streets for All grant by Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So good morning, everyone. I'm Taylor Laurent, and I'll be providing a quick update on our Safe Streets and Roads for All federal grant award. And for our new TAC members, I will include a little more exposition to kind of set the story about how we've gotten to where we are today. So earlier this year, we were awarded nearly $3.8 million as part of the Safe Streets and Roads for All federal grant program. And actually at our last Metro Plan Orlando board meeting, our executive director, Mr. Gary Hutman, announced that Metro Plan Orlando will be providing the 20% local match requirement on behalf of all of our participating agencies. So a little bit of good news that I could share today. Yes, we're all happy about that one. So starting with the positives, and then what have we been doing since our last meeting? So here at Metro Plan Orlando, we've been hard at work developing a project management plan, which will set us up for success as we develop all 23 of the Vision Zero action plans that are going to be developed as part of this grant implementation. So for our new members, that is 1 regional plan, 3 county plans, and 19 municipality, city, or town plans. So we want to set ourselves up for success as we're doing all 23 of these items simultaneously. While we've been putting that together, we have also been working directly with USDOT and FHWA to establish a grant agreement. So that grant agreement, once it's finalized, will allow us to be eligible to receive the funding that we have been awarded, as well as serve as our notice to proceed so our work can start and we can get going. We had our first grant coordination meeting with USDOT, FHWA, and several other Florida recipients of the grant funding this past Tuesday. I was really focusing on the grant agreement and making sure that we were dotting our I's and crossing our T's as we're putting together that paperwork. So our particular Metro Plan Orlando grant agreement is well underway. We're anticipating that we'll get a draft of that into the federal review process within the next several weeks. So we have also been working with you all, our local partners, to be able to establish a local agency champion or project manager who's going to be working hand in hand with us as we develop these Vision Zero action plans. The deadline to tell us who that person was actually yesterday. There are a few people that we're still waiting to hear from. So if you have not responded to let us know who that will be, please do so as soon as possible. Reach out to either Mike or myself, and we'll kind of get that ball rolling. So we need to be able to coordinate directly with you and your agencies so we can finalize the last few details that we have in our project management plan. Because ideally, if we can get all of that put together, we will be discussing the Vision Zero action plan process this June or July if everything stays on schedule. And for those who have responded, thank you so much. You'll be hearing from us very soon. So again, as we're getting closer and closer to our start date, there's a lot of moving pieces and we're trying to set ourselves up for success here at Metro Plan Orlando as well. So you heard me mention Mike Wilson. He's going to be stepping forward to assist with and lead the development of the Vision Zero safety action plans themselves. And I'll be stepping into more of a grant management and coordination role. So if you do have any questions, you can reach out to either or both of us. We'll make sure that you get the information that you need. So with that, there will be more information coming soon, June or July, if all goes well, but I am available to answer any questions if you have them today. Thank you.
To help, and could you share the names of the consultants?
So we currently have 4 consultants under contract, but 2 of them, their contract is open for procurement at the moment. So I'll say the ones that are under contract that we know for sure will be under for the duration of our Safe Streets Vision Zero work. So that is currently Kimley Horn and Farron Pierce and their associated teams that we have under contract. Our contract that's under procurement at the moment is with HDR and Kittleson. Those are the incumbents, but we're currently accepting proposals, or the deadline just passed. I'll have to check on the timeline for that. But we anticipate having those consultants, whoever they will be at the end of this contracting process, under contract by July-ish.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any other comments, questions?
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Emily Hanna. I'm the Executive Director of Bike Walk Central Florida. We're the local nonprofit advocacy organization that works with all of you to help your communities walk, bike, and roll. And today I'm going to present to you the annual report on the Best Foot Forward program. I do want to remind you this is for last fiscal year, so October 1 of 2021 through September of 2022. I'll talk a little bit about some of the activities we're doing this year and give you an update on some other things that Bike Walk has been doing. I'm sure you've seen us in your community outside of the Best Foot Forward program. So to start, we have been busy last year. We conducted 4 regional enforcement operations throughout the 3-county region. For those of that are new within the room, the Best Foot Forward program takes a 3E approach of education, enforcement, and engineering to improve driver yield rates at crosswalks throughout the region for those participating agencies. So we had 11 agencies participate in those 4 high visibility enforcement operations, conducting 55 details. That's the number of actual enforcement operations per crosswalk. And we handed out about 900 warnings and citations, which is impressive. But I like to say that usually when you get a warning and or a citation by a law enforcement partner, you tell someone about it. So hopefully we've educated more than just 900 drivers of the driver yield law. We've also been out in your community. We've been at 91 events or have done some of those presentations. We've reached about 20,000 people, and that's not just the number of people that attend events that we're at. Those are the actual conversations that we have. And likewise, we've distributed well over 20,000 print materials, which talks about the driver yield law and talks about the safety concerns and how drivers and pedestrians can work together cross the road safely. For our evaluation and engineering, we do data collection across that 3-county region. So we've monitored 90 crosswalks, including and totaled for over 400 collection samples throughout the region. And we've supported 18 different projects with that data within your municipalities. So if you're working on a complete street project or have a safety project happening, do inquire whether or not we have data to support or to help you improve those plans for those that would like to cross the road. Last year, we celebrated 10 years of the Best Foot Forward program, and in such, we introduced the Best Foot Forward Summit as a way to bring our coalition partners all together across the region and celebrate those successes. We brought in Dr. Van Houten, who was the inaugural gentleman who created the foundation for the program. So we brought him back to talk about kind of what he's learned in the last 10 years. And then we also handed out E-awards, so an award for engineering, enforcement, and education. So the City of Castleberry Police Department won the Enforcement Award for their efforts in the city. Leilani County with MetroPlan Orlando won the Education Award for the outreach efforts that she's supported the Best Foot Forward program with. And then Orange County won the Engineering Award for the improvements that they made at crosswalks throughout the county, specific to elementary school crossings. So kudos to that team. Here's some images of us during our enforcement operations. When we get together and do those enforcement operations, we like to celebrate those successes, and the success is really education. That's what this is all about. So here's some various images of us throughout the county and the region, and our law enforcement partners do enjoy participating in these enforcement operations. We do set these up for them, bring the media out as well, and then give them educational material to hand out with every citation and warning that's issued. We've also been in your community. You've probably seen our bright yellow tent at one of your events. If not, let me know. We can make sure that tent is there. But we talk to the community members about what the driver yield law is, if they're a driver, how to pay attention for people at crosswalks, if they're a walker. We often hear about anecdotal stories about places where they're having a difficult time crossing the road. We take those stories and bring those back to you as a partner so that we can work together on improving those situations for those that walk and bike. Here's a map of the crosswalks that we've monitored throughout that 3-county region. The average yield rate across everyone is about 46%. So that's pretty good considering the circumstances, but that's a little less than half of the drivers actually, one, knowing what the driver yield law is, and two, stopping for our data collectors on the roadway. We do have a map on our website of this information. All the data is readily available via GIS. That's been a relatively new improvement to the program. And if you don't have access to that, please reach out to our team and we will get that information to you. We've also supported some engineering improvements throughout the 3-county region. City of Orlando improved Michigan and Cayman Way with doing a pedestrian refuge island, some bulb outs and additional signage and stop bar. And then I really want to give a big shout out to Osceola County and kudos to you guys. We had a woman that was MS, she had MS and was wheelchair bound, came up to us to in an event and said that she had a hard time pushing the push button. She had to use her forehead. And so we took that story, gave it back to Osceola County. You guys found her route and added push button extenders and made sure that she had access to hit those crosswalk buttons to make sure that she was safe to cross the road. So kudos to you for turning that around very, very quickly. Also, big shout out to the city of Castleberry for their gateway treatment that they completed at Crystal Bowl Circle. This is near Castleberry Elementary. And as you can see, the driver yield rate's a little low. 1 of 3 drivers are actually stopping and yielding to somebody. And this is outside of school hours. We don't collect data when there's a crossing guard there. That's dangerous and interfering with their job. So this is outside of those hours, but still there could be a child that wants to cross that road or a parent that's going to get a kid. So we want to make sure that regardless if there's support there or not, that drivers stop and yield. So kudos to the city for installing these gateway treatments. They made an instant improvement in the driver yield rate. Now 2 out of 3 drivers stop and let someone cross there. And this was very low cost. I'm sure Kelly can speak to this as well on the specifics. But this is one of our success stories that we like to tell for that low cost engineering improvement. Oh, wait. And then a shout out to Kissimmee. They were very busy last year installing RFBs at specific crossings throughout the city. Dyer Boulevard in Kensington is not only a trail crossing, but it's also a school crossing. And we had monitored this crosswalk for a little while and also conducted several enforcement operations. So that's where I say the 3E approach is important because of the education and the enforcement effort combined with the improved engineering. With the RFB, you see the driver yield rate doubling, more than doubling at this location. We also supported some projects throughout the region, the Winter Park Drive Complete Street Study. We collected some data along this road, provided some feedback and worked with that project team. In addition to the 10th Street Complete Street Study for St. Cloud, again, monitored data, came in and provided both the qualitative and quantitative information that we collect in the program. We partnered with the city of Orlando when someone with Lighthouse Central Florida reached out to us and said they had a hard time crossing Princeton and Smith. They're a blind individual. And so we brought the team from City of Orlando in, connected those partners, and they worked with this individual to identify some improvements and work those improvements into the future Edgewater Drive Complete Street project. And then the city of Kissimmee asked us to join a road safety audit. So if those are happening through other consultants or other partners, we will happily join you on those efforts. So our team went out and supported the RSA study and completed that with the city of Kissimmee and provided that data as well. So that's the synopsis of Best Foot Forward. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the other programs that Bike Walk does, because I'm sure you've seen us out in the community outside of the BFF program. One of those notable is Bike 5 Cities. We actually changed the name to Bike 5 to be more inclusive, to include a 5-mile and an 11-mile route, because the original Bike 5 Cities route was 30 miles. And that's a little daunting for some of us that don't ride frequently. So we wanted to be a little bit more inclusive, include families, include seniors. So we created 2 additional routes, and Bike 5 is coming back October 14th of 2023. So look out for that. Registration will open soon. And those 5 cities that participate are Orlando, Winter Park, Maitland, Eatonville, and Castleberry. We're also working on some permanent signage of that route as well. One of the other programs that we launched last year was the Healthy West Orange Trails Connection with our West Orange community partners. And we're really working with the health department, or the Foundation for a Healthier West Orange and the West Orange Healthcare District, to promote, enhance, and activate trail connections throughout the West Orange County area. We've created 4 different working groups, including safety, talking about trail etiquette. We have a design and connections, looking at creating design standards for private development adjacent to trails. And then we are working on enhancing the existing conditions of those trails, providing additional plantings. And we've had a great relationship with Orange County Parks and Recreation to accomplish a lot of these goals. This Bike Walk Central Florida got involved with Dr. Phillips Inc. Last year and completed a trail network study, identifying trails not only through the Packing District, which is the 100-acre redevelopment effort on Northwest Orlando, but also to how to connect the Packing District to the rest of the trail infrastructure outside of their area. Not only were we able to identify some routes into downtown Orlando, create a village, downtown UCF campus, and also to the further east, to the healthcare village. But we also connected and found opportunities to connect on the west side to Pine Hills through Barnett Park, and eventually to the Pine Hills Trail connection that connects eventually to the Coast to Coast Trail. So being able to bring in those potential cyclists, tourists into downtown from the Coast to Coast Trail was a really big part of this, and connecting Pine Hills so that they have a safe route into downtown. We also did some bike rodeos and participated in other events throughout the region, including the City of Orlando's Bike to Work Day, in which one of our educators won the Florida Educator of the Year from the Florida Bicycle Association. That's Miss Ronnie Wood. And then we cannot do what we do without our board members and the work that they do. So I thought it was really important to share some of the other framework things that we've been working on. So our board members have donated over 370 hours last year. This is in community service. This is providing information and donated professional advice on the board. So they've been very busy, and we keep them very busy as well. They're likely to hit over that mark this year. Last year, we also improved our nonprofit transparency status, which is really important for us to receive larger grant funding and support you all with all of the things that you do. So we received our platinum transparency last year, which is the highest ranking a nonprofit can receive. And then earlier this year, we received the Platinum Bicycle Friendly Business designation from the American League of Bicycle. So we're very excited about that designation and supporting other businesses and communities that are interested in doing that this year as well. So please let me know if you have any questions on that process. And to finalize, I just want to say thank you all for your support of our organization, of our little nonprofit, and the programs and the work that we do. Without your support and without you supporting all the things that we do to walk, bike, and roll in our community, we wouldn't be here. So I truly appreciate the partnerships, and I look forward to the rest of this year and next, and so on and so forth. So thank you. Happy to answer any questions as well.
Seminole County works with and supports Bike Walk Central Florida, and enjoyed working with her organization. And they're the most enthusiastic group of people that I know. But they do have a lot of good information that if you're having any issues anywhere in your jurisdictions or something to do with your agency, I encourage you to seek them out. They have just a wealth of information for us. Thank you.
Appreciate
Emily.
it.
Yeah, question over here.
Yes,
Mr.
I'm
Chairman.
sorry.
And thank you so much, Emily, for the presentation. As we are working with the MPO in developing the Vision Zero action plans, is there an opportunity for Bywalk Central Florida also to be part of the process as we develop the action plans and the methodologies?
Absolutely. We are going to work with MetroPlan Orlando staff to determine how best we fold into that process and how we bring in the Best Foot Forward program into that as well. So we are working on that and we'll be supporting those efforts regardless of whatever those decisions are made.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Is there a way we could distribute the PowerPoint presentation? I'd like to have it myself. And last time you presented, I asked for it and you sent it to me.
Yeah.
But I think, everybody ought to publish this to their community because the signage stuff was very beneficial. And if you can raise the yield rate from 30 to 70%, that's worth everybody doing.
Absolutely.
And also that link to that video earlier, if we could somehow get that. I tried to find it, but there were hundreds of them under that name, and I want that one. So, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Slade, is that something you can distribute to the members, please?
Yeah, I can send that link, and if anyone wants PDF of the full slides or any specific presentation, I'm happy to distribute that out as well.
Okay. Anybody from the TISMO committee that is here have any questions? Okay. That it? Go ahead.
I just wanted to say thank you for hosting the Best Foot Forward Summit. It was really encouraging to meet with people of other disciplines. Some people were in healthcare, law enforcement, all types of folks. And the exercises that we did and the speakers that you brought in were really informative. So thanks, Rick.
Thank you. Appreciate that feedback.
Any others? Emily, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and as Slade said, with Sunshine Corridor status update was canceled. So we'll move into our first public comments opportunity. We will hear public comments on the action items. We will ask you that you provide your name and address for the record. And please hold your comments to 2 minutes or less. Do we have anyone coming in virtually for comments on the action items?
It looks like we do not have anybody on the virtual side who has anything to say.
Thank you. Lisa, do we have any in-person?
I have
Comment
not
cards?
received any.
Okay, thank you very much. With that, we'll move on to our single action item, which is approval of the February 24th, 2023 TAC meeting minutes that are provided for in the agenda. Do I have a motion for the minutes?
I'll move to approve. Second,
Thank you.
Ramon Centerins.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And now we have TAC only presentations. The first one is critical sidewalk gap bundles status update by our own Mr. Slade Downs.
All right, thank you. I get to sit in the seat and stand at the podium today. So thank you again. Slade Downs, transportation planner here at MetroPlan Orlando. And I will be providing you all with a update on our critical sidewalk gap bundles program. So as you all know, pedestrian infrastructure plays a big role in advancing MetroPlan Orlando's pedestrian safety, accessibility, and equity goals. According to our most recent data, over 1,500 centerline miles of roadway within our region have sidewalk facilities on only one side of the road, and over 4,000 centerline miles of roadway have no pedestrian facilities at all. So in the 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, we created a critical sidewalk gaps program to address those gaps in the pedestrian network that we deem critical. Most of the sidewalk segments that we identified were less than a quarter mile, and I can tell you from having a background in construction management that there are not that many contractors interested in bidding on a couple hundred feet of sidewalk. So to kind of get over that hurdle, we created this bundling program where we would group similar and geographically close sidewalk segments into bundled projects. So here you can see kind of in our GIS web app that I know a lot of you took a look at earlier on, some examples of those bundles. So to make sure that those bundles made sense, we checked with our local experts, that would be all of you. As our municipal partners, you reviewed the bundles on the web app late last year, and we got a lot of really good constructive feedback. We were able to take the input from all of you and your staffs and incorporate it and update the bundles and get those updated to fit in with your local knowledge. So the next step in the process was to prioritize the bundles themselves. At the March 21st meeting of the Vulnerable Users Working Group, we had a really great deep dive discussion into that topic. We were able to reach a consensus and establish 5 prioritization criteria and begin to discuss the scoring weights and the formula. To be sure, we heard from everyone. We distributed a survey after that meeting to the full membership of that group. And then at the April 18th meeting of that group, we presented the results of the discussion and the follow-up survey. We had a little more discussion, and overall the group, was pretty pleased with the consensus that we had reached. So here are the 5 prioritization criteria. These were adapted and refined based on that input from the Vulnerable Users Working Group. The next few slides, I will go over those categories, the scoring criteria, and the overall weight of the categories. So first off, we have equity areas, which are determined by socioeconomic factors outlined in our Title VI plan, with special callouts for areas with heightened levels of zero-car households. Next, we have bike ped safety and crashes. This is determined by the number of crashes involving bicycles and pedestrians, with a call out for any specifically bike ped fatalities in that area. Third, we have proximity to schools, which is fairly straightforward. Next, we have proximity to transit with qualifiers for ridership of the transit stops located there. And finally, we have proximity to points of interest, such as grocery stores, healthcare facilities, and parks. So these categories were assigned weights based on the initial discussion, survey results, and consensus that we reached with the Vulnerable Users Safety Group. Equity areas ranks highest here at 30%. Then we have bike ped safety and crashes at 25%, schools at 20%, transit proximity at 15%, and points of interest at 10%. So now that you all have heard kind of the details and the history and background on the prioritization methodology, we will go ahead and apply that methodology using GIS analysis to our identified bundles to create a ranked list of sidewalk bundle projects. That ranked list will be incorporated into the PPL, the prioritized projects list, under the critical sidewalks gaps section. And you all will get a preview of the PPL, including that new list at our next meeting. So stay tuned, get excited. And with that, I will go ahead and wrap up and say thank you for listening, and shout out thank you for all of the members of the Vulnerable Users Working Group for their input and hard work. Here's my info. I'd be happy to take any questions. Thanks.
Like, can you tell us, once a project makes it onto the PPL, what are the funding sources available? I think there was a Metro plan set aside for these types of projects, but what is that annually and how do we, does it just go down the list in the order that they're?
Right. So
Right.
we have a specific pot of money for critical sidewalk gaps. Believe it's $1 million a year or $1 million a fiscal year. Double check.
No, yeah,
Right,
yeah, so I
okay.
hit it on the head. Yeah, the board's policy set aside $1 million per year beginning in fiscal 26. So the goal is to take these bundles that are prioritized. DOT only does design through the LAP program, as everyone knows. So we'll be conceptualizing these first set of bundles that are prioritized through our planning process, so we can tee them right up into the design, kind of going into fiscal 26 and fiscal 27. So that's where you'll start to see them programmed in the work program, our latter years of the next 5-year work program. The fund specific will likely either be SU or TALU, or Transportation Alternative Urban Funds, which are kind of the perfect funding source for these types of projects. So.
Thank you.
When with the scoring for the proximity to transit, was that quarter mile done just as like a quarter mile buffer or as kind of the walking shed? Because, you know, with a lot of transit, there could be a railroad in the way and those types of things. So
it was done as a buffer rather than a specific walk shed, mainly because in most of the locations that we had identified, there were no sidewalks yet. So it was kind of difficult to do a walk shed analysis on most of them. So it was a buffer. Yeah.
I just want to, I think this is probably one of the best things that the Vulnerable Users Safety Working Group has done. We had a lot of deep discussion about the weighting of these criteria. So I just wanted to point that out, but I'm glad that we have that subgroup.
Thank you. Yeah. And yeah, speaking of, there are some of those members here at the table with you all. So it's they had some good weigh-in. Thanks for saying that.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve, for the presentation. I wanted to ask you, as part of the priority list, do we have some sort of public involvement? Just understanding that the community is amenable to these projects. Case in point, really surprising to us in Orange County that some of the sidewalks that we had already established for these safety purposes, that the community was against it. You know, and we had to go ahead and to wait and to go back to the community, although the sidewalk was within the county's public right of way. So I'm not saying that that is going to happen in every single case, but definitely it can become a political issue. So so how do we address those issues when we're talking about safety, when we are talking about what is our priority, and then when the politics perhaps, you know, are not there, they're opposing what we are trying to do, how do we handle those issues? Because then it can become very sensitive, and to have a goal in mind that we want to reduce fatalities and severe injuries, but to have a trade-off in terms of what we can do and where the funding is going to come from and whether the community accepts that project or not. So we have had only a few instances, but I will not be surprised that perhaps in already established neighborhoods that you are counting on that to be part of your front lawn, and you're claiming that for your landscaping and whatnot, all of a sudden come in and to build a sidewalk.
Right. So as far as public input on this process, we do have members of the public who sit on the Vulnerable Users Working Group who participated in the process. As far as those kind of pinpointed project issues like landscaping in people's front yards and driveways and that sort of thing, that will probably come up later in the process as we begin to identify those. Alex,
I'll
you
be a
wanna-
lifeline again, and I hinted at it before, and I think it's an important part of this. So it's the next step to our priorities. So we're establishing a priority list, so we know how to spend that $1 million a year. You know, we're going to be designing a few of these projects and then constructing them over the next few years. But design is that next lap step. But before we go to lap, we want to be prepared with feasibility in public buy-in, community buy-in. To your very point, I sat on my old city's transportation advisory board, and you think sidewalks are winners everywhere, and you know, and to your point, yeah, sometimes they're a little more challenging to implement. Trees and other kind of natural elements to create issues and drive up costs as well as we're trying to implement these sidewalk apps. So the next step in what we have in our unified work program, our budget for next year, we've set aside some funds to actually conduct planning feasibility studies on those first few bundle priorities, so we can dive right in, understand the issues, and really refine those gaps and costs, so we can go right into design with a really good plan. Everyone knows. So the priorities will go through our typical regional public participation process. But to your point, there will also be a very localized planning step, which will take place after the priority list is set.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Okay, thank you.
Rotation and I can bring this closer. Okay. I'm going to go over the updates of where we are in the functional classification review that we do every 10 years after the census. And I do have a couple of additional things to show you. So you and your agencies will be better prepared for commenting. So with that, I'm going to jump right into it. I'm going to talk about the process today and our upcoming schedule, and then demo the application online. And then we'll talk about next steps, and I'll answer any questions that you may have. So last year, we presented to all the committees. I'm sure some of you remember that, and that's when we were basically kicking off this effort. So now that we've kicked off the effort, we've done a comprehensive review, and we've made recommendations for all functional classification changes within our 9 counties, including Orange, Osceola, and Seminole. And we have that data available, and it is available for public view and public consumption, and will help your agency staff make any comments about that. So everything has been finalized with our applications and some of the staff reviews. Actually, no, that is incorrect. The application is finalized, but this is the point where we're going to be opening up the review process for all the cities and counties and starting that calendar to date with this meeting. So today's the 28th. We're giving our presentation to you all as I stand here. And then the comment review period will last through June 6th. And then there'll be an interim check-in regarding the status on May 19th. And then the governing board will be briefed in advance of the approval in July on June 14th. And then the final proposed functional classification maps will be sent to the committees and the board for approval on those dates that you see there. So I have a couple of links that I need to demonstrate. All right, so thank you for yeah, if you can click that. Thank you. All right, so the first thing that I want to show you is this is a dashboard that DOT created with the functional classification data, the current and proposed. And this is primarily will be used by agency staff to figure to see what all the changes have been made and what those changes are. So the first part of this dashboard, and I know I'm going to go through this a little bit fast, but if you have any questions or want me or would like for me to go over this with you in more detail, I will be more than happy to do so. I imagine most of you or your staff have viewed dashboards in the past and know how they work. So I'll start here with the comparison, query, and filter map, where you can zoom in, and as you zoom in on all of these maps, you'll start to see the roadway labels and everything show. And this is where you can actually download the raw data in tabular format. You can export to CSV. If I can hide that real quick. And then you can also filter by city or county. And then there's also a slider that will show the color differences because we have the functional classification symbolized by color, and you could use that as a code to see what the proposed changes are. And then here in this proposed functional classification tab, we've just symbolized the classification by color. And then this moves in unison with the map on the right. And this shows just the roads that have changes, period, highlighted in blue. And you can turn off these layers and all these maps, and you can have a legend showing what all these colors mean and everything. And then we also have a bunch of tables that we've provided. We have current, proposed, and changes in mileages by city and by county. We also have a table with cities that have no changes at all with their functional classification. So I imagine this will be the first table that you'd like to look at, because if your city is on this list, then you have no changes in the functional classification. So so there is that. And now how do we go to the other? And then the next thing I'm going to be showing you is the application for how comments will be submitted for this. So, and I'll demo that real quick. Thank you. All right, so we've created a website here for the functional classification review, and it has pretty much all the data that's been in our presentations. What is the functional classification, why we're doing it, who's involved, the timeline, some guidelines on comments. And then these are the links to the maps by each county where you'll actually submit comments. And I'm going to do a demonstration. There are QR codes here because these are friendly for mobile devices. So I'm going to go do a demo in Orange County. I'm going to open up the map here, and then it automatically says this is public comments for the Orange County proposed functional classification. It gives some background, some instructions on how to make the comments, as well as contact information, which is not only located here, but on this website as well, down here at the bottom. So the first thing that the user will need to do is click on the map to the road that they want to make a comment on. The default is to have this map made very small, but you can make this large. And then you can zoom in, and you'll start to see the roadway labels and everything. And your mouse will snap to the closest road that it finds. You can kind of see it highlight in orange. So I'm going to make click there, and that little blue cursor indicates that I've selected this road to make a comment on. If you make a mistake, you can just click this delete button and you can start over. So once I've clicked the road and I can click this to make it small again, I'm going to put in the comment, or you can put in your, well, I can't, there's no keyboard here. So, but basically you just put in your comment here. You put your name, the agency you represent, and your email address. Those are all required fields. And then the good thing is once you're in a browser session and you've entered your name and your agency and your email address, when the survey reloads, that information will stay in there. So you don't have to keep re-entering it, because I know agencies will probably have more than one comment and that can get very tedious. So once you click and submit the survey, you'll get a prompt saying your response was submitted, and it'll automatically reload the survey. And then you'll also get an automated email generated that comes from DOT saying, thank you for your comment. And it'll have your comment highlighted in the email, and that we'll reach out to you if we have any questions or concerns. And we ask that everyone use this app to submit comments. We've reached out to other MPOs and they have sent emails instead of using this. The problem is we receive hundreds of emails a day, and it is very easy for emails to get lost in the shuffle. And we don't want any comments or any suggestions to go by the wayside. So we kindly ask that you use this app for all of your comments. And that being said, I've got one more slide, and then I'll solicit any questions or any concerns that you may have. All right, so the very last slide here is what we need, what DOT needs from everyone for all the local agencies is to identify their agency leads for the functional classification review. And please contact us with who those people are going to be. And then if you'd like to have a specific discussion with DOT, if your agency would like to, we'll be more than happy to do that. One of the other things that we've done, well, one of the things that we've done with the Space Coast TPOs, we've actually had virtual office hours scheduled where few of the cities have come in at a time, and we've gone through the dashboard and the app with them and address some of their comments. So if that's something that you would like to schedule, please contact MetroPlan and on DOT, and we'll coordinate that through ourselves. And then lastly, we'd like to have comments and everything in by June 6th. So that concludes my presentation, and I'll now answer any questions.
Jason, thanks for putting this application together. It's going to create a much simpler, more consolidated approach to making these comments and tracking all that. So there's a big improvement that you've done here. And I want to thank you also for working with Orange County in terms of filtering this information down even another step further by maintenance responsibility.
Yes.
Because we have a number of roads that go through the 13 municipalities that are existing in Orange County, and that would be helpful as well. We provided that information to Mr. Trotter today. It'll find its way to you, and we really appreciate working with us on this project.
Thank you very much. And I know we've reached out to Seminole and Osceola County as well. If you happen to have roadway maintenance and ownership responsibility data, that would be very useful for us because that's one of the data sources, unfortunately, that DOT is kind of lacking. We know our roads, but with the local roads, we're not necessarily sure who the responsibility is among the cities and counties. So thank you.
First of all, thank you for this. This is much easier. I remember my first functional classification coming in with the big roll pot and the map and yeah. But you said you were going to send an email back with your comment on it.
Yeah, once you submit the survey with your and you fill it out with your comment, then that automatically sends the email back to whoever sent the comment.
So does it include just the comment or does it also include the geographic information?
It just includes the comment.
Okay.
On the DOT backend, which I'm not able to show you right now, it actually shows everything as a point. Because that's one of the benefits of this GIS tool. So we actually have the data in a tabular format and a map format. So, and we can easily get that exported as a shapefile or a geodatabase. So if you're interested in getting that, we can definitely send that to you.
I mean, probably not now, but yeah, because I'm just trying to think, like, I don't want to send like 5 comments on the same thing and then forget it. So it'd be nice to see kind of the global, what all the comments.
Yeah, and that way seeing it in the map view also shows us if there's any conflicts between the agencies with the same road, because if one agency wants this road this way and the other wants it this way, we can identify those and we can do a conflict resolution process.
Thank you.
For the maintenance list of the roadway maintenance list, would it be best to send that directly to you or filter it through MetroPlan or?
You could, unless MetroPlan has any objections, you can send that right to me. I appreciate that. Okay.
Well then.
Thank you so much, Jason, for the presentation. I don't know if this has been considered before, but just thinking outside the box in terms of safety. So I know that the functional classification, the arterials, collectors, major, minor, throughput capacity, also have there been consideration perhaps with the context classification within the functional classification? And the reason that I'm asking, just based on the safety tidbit that we had, it just speeds. Before, when we were looking at corridors, we used the 85th percentile speed. So in some instances, we needed to have that corridor even at higher speeds. But if speed and safety is a critical factor, especially where the corridor traverses and you have a lot of residential areas or commercial areas, perhaps there is an opportunity to reduce the speed, which is critical for safety. Is that ever being considered as part of this functional classification?
So you bring up some excellent points that other MPOs have made. So I understand in the past, the functional classification was used for other means. It was used for roadway design criteria. It was used for other things. DOT has gotten completely away from that. The functional classification nowadays really is an administrative exercise. To address safety and the concerns that you brought up, DOT has implemented the context classification, which is something totally different than functional class. And that's done separately. And it takes into account the built environment and I'm sure all of you know what context class is by now through various DOT presentations to see how the roadway needs to be designed to accommodate all the modes within that built environment. So that is what DOT is doing to improve safety and to improve better design on these roadways. So we understand that context classification really, at least right now, is done on solely just the state roads. So if a local government or a local agency is interested in doing something similar to that, the functional classification may be a starting point, but I don't think it's necessarily appropriate to be used to determine safety. I think it's a good starting off point, but the context of where the roadway is it's so very important as we're all learning these days. So I mean, I don't know which agency you represent, but and then I don't know what your agency, you know, how they're addressing this on their maintained roads, but
Yeah, we're Orange County.
oh, Orange County, okay. All right.
More of a context classification approach.
Okay.
Particularly on most recent roadway studies that
Mhm.
we've been doing. We will be classifying at least the functionally classified roads in Orange
Mhm.
County coming up very, very soon. So I think it would be helpful for the agencies here to get a little more clarification
Mhm.
on the purpose of the functional classification. For many years, it's been also for federal aid.
Yes,
assistance
yes.
Once there's some kind of a disaster or
Mhm.
declared event. So that's been very, very helpful, but also the roles and responsibilities that the agency has by designating their facilities as functionally classified. I think that would be helpful also for the group as well moving forward.
And another point that I'd like to bring up, that some of you may be interested in, I know it's been raised with other agencies, is that for comprehensive planning purposes, some cities and counties elect to have their own internal functional classification when it comes to designating corridors within their city. That is a perfectly fine option to pursue, but it just needs to be understood that for funding purposes, the federal functional classification is the one that has the standing, not the local functional class. That's solely used for planning and other purposes, so.
I think that got to some of my questions, but I wanted to ask if in either the comment portal or on the website you referenced, if some of that information regarding the purpose or the reasoning behind some of the proposed changes is available.
Yes, that is. I didn't click on a roadway in the map to show you, but if you, when you're in the dashboard and you click on a roadway and there's the pop-up box shows up, there are fields showing the reason for change. And it is a drop down that is populated, but then there is also a field that may be populated that elaborates on those comments. So hopefully that'll be useful.
On this, were you sending each agency an email? I mean, you were asking for the lead of functional classification or anything like that? Or we just need to reach out to you directly, or how did you want that?
You could copy Metro Plan and you can just send that person and their contact information to DOT. And copy Kimley Horn, our team.
Okay.
And of course, Metro Plan, so.
So who, Kimley Horn is our contact?
Jim Wood.
Okay.
Yeah, Jim couldn't be here today. But yeah, he's the project manager on the consultant side.
Well, could there be an email making the request and including the links?
Yeah.
To the maps? I think that's what we.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're actually going to be sending, Metro Plan Orlando staff's going to be sending a blast out to all technical advisory committee members after this meeting, follow up links, a little bit more on instruction, timelines, deadlines, but really kind of consistent with everything that Jason's talked about today.
Yeah, I know in the past it took a lot of time to go through, and so I want to get that information as soon as possible, so, okay.
Hi, to piggyback off of Umberto's questions about the context classification, we have a lot of changing land uses along our corridors and would like to more comprehensively address that. I've had some one-on-one conversations with DOT staff about the concept of having those conversations, but I was just wondering if you all were going to do something more comprehensively with an organization like this to kind of look at it as a whole again,
Mhm.
based on, changes that have occurred over, the period of time since we designated those things. I know that they're online and you have similar apps. They're not open for comment like this.
Mhm.
But rather than trying to kind of raise a flag and get a conversation going, is that something DOT might initiate?
I'm not really involved on the context class side. I do know who is. I do know who they are because they sit right next to me. I can float your concern up with them. I think your point is very well taken. And I do agree. I think that something like that would be helpful. I know there's an internal app with the context class that's developed, but it's not public at this time. And, since I'm not in that area, I, really have no say in it, but I'll be more than happy to reach out to staff, and if you'd like their contact information, I could send that to you too.
Yeah, thank you. I just, I'm willing to have the conversation, corridor by corridor. But if we're doing something more comprehensively in the next year or so, we can wait for that time. But
Okay.
if you can maybe send that information out with the follow-up email, I think a couple of us here have some questions on those details too.
All right, thank you. Thank you.
General information is in tab 2, as always is. Upcoming meetings are of interest are our meeting next May 19th. Metro Plan Board meets on May 10th. Are there any other comments or questions from the committee members before we move forward? Very well. We move on to public comments. Do we have anyone virtually who would like to make any general comments?
We have some people on the virtual side, but at this time, there's nobody who's raising their hand to provide a comment.
Thank you. Lisa, do we have anyone in person turn in a speaking card?
I have not received any.
Thank you. Okay, and with that, no other comments. We are adjourned at 11:15. Somebody argue with that, but we'll